Teth, this is an AI reconstruction of Sydney in the 1840s. When I look at this scene, I see a city that was still finding its identity. This open land is Hyde Park, a place where people gathered, walked, and spent quiet afternoons. Horse riders moved slowly along dirt roads, while colonial buildings rise. Sydney at this time was no longer just a penal colony, it was becoming a social and cultural center of early Australia. This AI reconstruction is created for historical understanding and visual storytelling, helping us imagine how life may have looked nearly 2 centuries ago. This image shows Sydney in a much earlier time when the city was still small and surrounded by open land and nature. The harbor looks wide and calm, with large sailing ships anchored near the shore, gently moving with the water. Colonial buildings appear simple and spaced far apart, while people walk slowly along the paths in traditional clothing of that era. There is no noise, no crowds, only a peaceful atmosphere capturing Sydney before it transformed into the busy modern city known today. This image shows an artistic view of the rocks in the early 1800s. Narrow streets, stone buildings, and small houses line the hillside near the harbor. Life here feels slow and quiet, shaped by trade, ships, and daily work along the waterfront. There are no crowds or modern structures, only simple colonial streets and early settlement life. This scene captures the rocks before it became part of the modern city of Sydney. This image shows an artistic view of Botany Bay in the early 1800s. The bay looks wide and calm, with sailing ships resting near the shore and open land stretching along the coast. Native trees surround the area and the water feels quiet and undisturbed. There are no large buildings or busy streets, only nature and early signs of settlement. This peaceful scene captures Botany Bay before modern development changed the landscape. This image shows an artistic view of Victoria Bridge in Parramatta during the 1800s. The stone bridge stretches across the river with wide arches, allowing boats to pass beneath it. The surrounding land appears open and quiet, with nature lining the riverbanks. People move slowly across the bridge, reflecting the pace of colonial life at the time. This scene represents one of the most important river crossings in early Sydney, long before modern bridges changed the landscape. This image shows an artistic view of Windsor Bridge crossing the Hawkesbury River during the 1800s. The stone bridge stands strong above the calm water, with wide arches allowing boats to pass beneath. The surrounding land appears open and rural, reflecting the quiet life of the colonial era. People move slowly across the bridge, using it as an important river crossing for travel and trade. This scene represents one of the key bridges that connected early settlements around Sydney. This image shows an artistic view of Pyrmont Bridge in Sydney during the 1800s. The iron bridge stretches across the water, connecting early industrial areas on both sides. Simple buildings and warehouses line the surroundings, reflecting the growing activity of the time. People and carts move slowly across the bridge, carrying goods and supplies. This scene represents Pyrmont Bridge as an important link in Sydney's early development, long before the modern city took shape. This artistic image shows Macquarie Street in the early 1800s, when it was one of the most important streets in colonial Sydney. Wide roads and sandstone buildings line the street, reflecting early planning and order. Government offices, hospitals, and churches once stood here, shaping daily life and administration. People walk calmly in colonial clothing, with no signs of modern traffic or noise. This scene captures Macquarie Street as the quiet political and social center of early Sydney. This illustration presents the Queen Victoria building as it appeared in Sydney during the late 1800s. The building's impressive stone facade and elegant arches highlight the grandeur of Victorian-era architecture. Horse-drawn carriages pass through the street, while residents gather nearby, dressed in the clothing of the time. The atmosphere is quiet and dignified, reflecting a city that was steadily developing. Even then, the Queen Victoria building stood as a major symbol of Sydney's civic and architectural progress. This image shows an artistic view of Circular Quay in 19th century Sydney. The harbor is active with sailing ships and small boats moving across calm waters. Stone wharves line the shoreline, while early colonial buildings stand close to the water's edge. People gather near the docks as trade and daily life unfold at a steady pace. This scene reflects Circular Quay as the heart of Sydney's harbor activity during its early development. This illustration presents Darlinghurst as it appeared during the 19th century, far from the harbor and shaped by inland city life. The streets rise gently along the hillside, lined with modest homes and sandstone buildings. Daily movement is slow, with residents walking or passing by in horse-drawn carts, dressed in the fashion of the era. The scene feels quiet and grounded, reflecting a neighborhood built around work, residence, and routine, rather than trade by the water. Darlinghurst stands as an example of how Sydney expanded inward during the 1800s. This illustration takes us back to Paddington, an inland part of Sydney during the 19th century. Far from the harbour, this area grew along hills and narrow streets, shaped by everyday residential life. Rows of terraced houses line the sloping roads, built from sandstone and brick, reflecting the practical architecture of the time. People move calmly through the streets, dressed in Victorian clothing, while horse-drawn carts pass by, carrying goods and supplies. There is no rush here, only routine and quiet movement. Paddington developed as workers, families, and craftsmen settled away from the waterfront, forming close communities within the city. This scene represents a side of early Sydney that was not driven by ships or trade, but by homes, streets, and daily life unfolding slowly within the inland neighborhoods of the growing city. This illustration takes us to Redfern railway station during the late 19th century. Steam trains were a common sight here, bringing workers, goods, and daily movement into the heart of the inland city. The station area feels busy yet orderly, shaped by routine travel rather than harbor trade. People wait along the platform, dressed in the fashion of the time, while trains arrive and depart at a steady pace. This scene shows how the railway transformed Redfern into an important part of Sydney's growing transport network. Above the platform, the station's roof and iron framework stand strong and functional. These upper structures were designed to protect passengers from weather while keeping the space open and practical. Every beam and detail reflects the engineering style of the 19th century. Even today, this upper view reminds us how railway stations were built with purpose, shaping daily movement and routine life in inland Sydney around places like Redfern Railway Station. This illustration shows Camperdown as it appeared during the 19th century, an inland area shaped by open land and early settlement. Simple cottages and sandstone buildings stand along quiet dirt roads, surrounded by gentle hills. People move slowly through the area, following daily routines far from the harbor and trade routes. There is no water or port activity here, only residential life and steady growth. This scene reflects how Camperdown developed as part of Sydney's inward expansion during the 1800s. This illustration presents Chippendale as it existed in the 19th century, an inland area shaped by work and residence. Narrow streets run between brick terraces and small workshops, showing a neighborhood built for everyday labor. People move through the area at an unhurried pace, following routine paths that define daily life. There is no harbor or river influence here, only streets, buildings, and steady activity. This scene reflects how Chippendale grew quietly as part of Sydney's expanding inner city during the 1800s. This artwork presents Victoria Barracks as it appeared in 19th century Sydney, standing firmly away from the waterfront. The buildings are strong and functional, designed for organization and command rather than decoration. Soldiers move through this space according to strict schedules, with daily life shaped by drills and military routine. The atmosphere feels controlled and disciplined, reflecting the role of the barracks in maintaining order. This scene highlights how military sites like Victoria Barracks played a quiet but important role in shaping Sydney's early structure and security.